You're listening to Excellence Above Talent, a podcast where we have the hard conversations about the lives of men and what leads us to achieve greatness and suffer defeat. Hear from other men's journeys as well, as we all learn and grow together to become inspirations to ourselves and those around us. And now your host, Aaron Thomas.
What's up, my beautiful people? Aaron Thomas with Excellence Above Talent. I know I said that I was back on weekly, but sometimes you just gotta figure it out. And I'm in the process of figuring it out. I haven't done a podcast in 3 weeks, but I'm going to get back on it, I promise. I'm just again, trying to figure it out. Just started school, so there's a lot going on. But, yeah, I'm not stopping. I'm motivated to continue to push through. And that's what I am going to do, push through. So, a couple of weeks back, there was a conference, a worship conference. And there was a pastor there who talked about how 2/3 of men that were in the Bible didn't finish strong. And that kind of blew my mind, but it kind of didn't. And so this podcast is going to be about some of the reasons why I feel men don't finish well. But I'm also reading a book called The Way of a Superior Man. And he talks about, ways that men can finish well if they do the things that they want to do in love. Right? So when I talk about men not finishing well, it is from the aspects of the suicide rate among men is higher than women. When we talk about substance abuse, alcoholism, men are the ones that are doing it at a higher rate than women. When we talk about the violence, the domestic violence, the sexual assaults, the prison system is filled with men, and men are the ones doing most of these crimes. When we look at the relationship aspect of it, there are a lot of single parent households in America, and a lot of the single parents are single moms because men are capable of laying with someone, but when there is a responsibility of a kid, they disappear. We can even talk about how 70% of women don't have orgasms when they have relations with a man. So there's just so many ways and different things that tell me that men aren't finishing well. And that preacher had something. There was something that he was going with it. And that was, I don't know, for me just to kind of have this conversation. Hell, I didn't finish well. I had a marriage. Married for 6 years. Together for 2. Altogether, total 8 years we were together. I didn't finish well in my marriage. There are a lot of things I can look back on my life and be like, yeah, I didn't finish well. And I tried to end my life 8 years ago. So that wouldn't have been good for me. I wouldn't have finished well if that would have happened. And so I'm not here to attack manhood, because I think manhood is a beautiful thing. You know, if you're a man out there and you're trying, I think that's beautiful. That's awesome. Continue to do it. What I want to do is bring awareness and have a conversation about why. Why are we not finishing it well? So there's this book, The Way of a Superior Man by David Deidre. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. In chapter 9 says, do it for love. To me, that is one of the main reasons why most men don't finish well. We don't do the things that we should do for love. We do it out of obligation. We do it because we saw our dad and our granddad do it. We do it because we feel like society will look down on us or not deem us man enough if we don't do it. We do it because we lust over that person's body. We do it because we're objectifying, what that woman could potentially do for us. And if you're doing it for any of those reasons, at some point, you're going to get tired. At some point, you're not going to want to do it anymore because it's not worth it. And so I really want to hunker down on learning and understanding that if love isn't involved in what you're doing, you probably should not be doing it. Because it's a danger for you, but it's also a danger for everyone that's around you. So there's a few quotes that I want to read from the book that really just kind of stood out to me to help me understand from my perspective why I wasn't finishing well. The first quote: the way a man penetrates the world should be the same way he penetrates his woman. Oof. And when I read that, I was like, oh, Lord. He goes on to say, not merely for personal gain or pleasure, but to magnify love, openness, and depth. No one has ever told me or explained it to me like that ever. And my wheel started to turn, and I realized that most of the things that I've done in my life was out of obligation because I felt like I needed to. Just like if you are a Christian and you're supposed to read the Bible and pray, and you don't do it because you want to do it or it's out of love, you do it because you feel like you have to do it. And there is no happiness, there is no love, there is no you wanting to do it. It's just like, just let me get it done and over with. And that's how a lot of my life has been. I'm going to read that quote one more time. The way a man penetrates the world should be the same way he penetrates his woman, not merely for personal gain or pleasure, but to magnify love, openness, and depth. And that's how, as a man, you should live all the time. With your friends, with your relationships, with your family, with your career, with your business, with your kids. Everything that you do should not be for personal gain or pleasure. It should be to magnify love, openness, and depth. Another quote: the freedom or love they have achieved and the way they have given their gifts often leave a sense of incompleteness. There's a lot of men walking around this world not complete, empty, lost, trying to figure out their way. And trust me, I understand and I get it, because I've been that way. And I feel like I'm barely getting out of that, right? Because I wasn't doing it for love. I was doing it for my pleasure, my personal gain, what I can get from it. And if you live your life like that as a man, you lose. You can have all the money in the world. You can have the prettiest woman. You can have the house, the car. You can have all of that stuff. But if you're not opening yourself up and loving yourself as well as others, then are you really living? Crazy to me that most of my life, no one ever talked about love. Do it for love. Do it because as a man, if you do it for love, things happen, things change. You're not looking for that next pleasure. You're not looking for that next paycheck. You're looking to make an impact. And that's what all men should want to make in this world, is an impact on the people that surround them. Because to me, that's true manhood. If I leave this world and I have impacted hundreds of thousands of people, that's where my legacy lies, versus leaving a lot of money for people who are just going to spend it. And men are working. We're working our tails off trying to provide and take care. But if you take a step back, are you making an impact on your wife and kids? Are you making an impact on your community? Because if you're not, then that money, again, you have to have money, but that money isn't going to get you where you want to go in life. So, another quote: to bloom a woman and the world for real takes authenticity, persistence, and courage of heart. Oh my goodness. This whole chapter broke me down. This whole chapter helped me see what I needed to work on as a man. And was I real with myself in order to be real with the people around me, woman and world? Was I persistent, or whenever things got hard, did I just quit? And do I have the courage to stand up and to stand out when everyone else is sitting back and being quiet? To bloom the woman and world, you have to be real. You have to constantly try. And you have to have courage of heart. You have to be brave. But very few men are willing to do the deed for real, to use anything they've got to liberate their woman and the world into the deepest possible love, truth, and openness. It's scary to, at one, liberate yourself, because you have to then go within and deal with all the demons that are inside of you, the darkness that you've tried to hide from yourself and others. In order to liberate woman and world, you yourself have to be liberated, or working to be liberated, if that makes sense. Because I don't think you'll ever be liberated until you die. You're always going to have to work through things. But if you're working through trying to be free or freeing yourself, then you'll be able to free your woman and the world, because you're working on yourself. And a lot of men don't want to work on themselves because it is scary. You don't know what you'll find when you start to do that dark work to find the light. In order to find the light, you have to do that dark work. You have to talk about the trauma and pains of your childhood. You have to talk about the trauma and pains of maybe getting molested. You have to talk about the trauma and pains of seeing your mom get beat up by your dad, or seeing your mom get beat up by her boyfriend, or seeing your dad, drunk, passed out, your mom or dad abusing and beating you. You have to work through that trauma and pain in order to get to the light, in order to find out who your real self is. And once you find out who your real self, who you are, right, you can liberate. You can also help free your woman and the world by being you. Most men are limped. Most men are filled with doubt and uncertainties. Most men hold back their true drive because of fear. You are going to be afraid to not walk the same line everyone else is walking. You will be made fun of. People will call you weird or nerd. People will try to get you back in line because they know if you're walking out of line, then they themselves have to look within themselves to see what's inside, and most of them don't. So they're going to run and hide and protect themselves. And in order to do that, they're going to have to get you back in line by any means necessary. Be courageous in walking alone. The crazy part is you're going to have doubts. You're going to have insecurities. You're going to have fear. If you walk in line with everyone else, or if you walk outside of the line and do your own thing. The fear, the doubt, the insecurities, they're not going to go anywhere. So you might as well work on yourself and get out of that line or get out of that box. Find your true, authentic self so that woman in the world can be blessed because of it. I'm a big believer in this world need stronger men. We have sat on the sidelines far too long seeing all these atrocities happen and not holding other men accountable for their actions, not calling other men out on why they do the things that they do. Policing. It is our job as men to police other men and make sure that they're helping and taking care of their wife and their kids. Iron sharpens iron. And if you're not around people in your life that's trying to make you better, then you don't have friends. I'll say it again. If you are around people in your life that are not trying to make it better, you don't have friends. As a man, if you're willing to discover and embrace who you are, if you're willing to lean on your fears and give everything you have to penetrate the world and your woman from the core of your being and bloom them into love without limits, that is, to me, that is your ultimate goal as a man. Be willing to discover and embrace your truth. Lean through your fears and give everything you've got so that you can penetrate the world and your woman from the core of your being. So what's on the inside comes out, right? And so if you're dealing with the fears and the trauma and the pain and you're working through it, and now you are becoming a brave, loving, kind, vulnerable, open man, what's in will come out. And what comes out is that loving, kind, vulnerable, open, brave, courageous man who can give to the world and his woman the best gift that they can possibly have. And that's a free and liberated man, not afraid to speak his mind, not afraid to walk in the room and allow his presence to be without trying to shrink or peacock because he wants to be seen and heard. It's a beautiful thing as a man, if you can. Love without limit. This book is just, I would recommend this book to any guy that is out there who is trying to figure out a way to be better. The Way to a Superior Man. Because it tells you everything that you, like, it breaks it down. And if you really dive deep into it, you'll get a good understanding. Another quote from the book. Both forms of intercourse, sexually and worldly, requires sensitivity, spontaneity, and strong connection to deep truth in order to penetrate chaos and closure in a way that love prevails. I want you to understand, most of these quotes that I'm reading in the book is saying, know your truth. Understand who you are as a person. Understand the ways and the things that make you tick. Because once you do that, everything else kind of plays itself out. It becomes a lot easier, and there's more understanding whenever you're going through something. You're not trying to blame your woman or the world for why your life is crappy. You're not trying to blame your woman or the world if you're going through something in your life. I just got divorced the end of June, and I could blame the world. I could blame pornography. I could blame being shown a pornographic image when I was 10 years old. I could blame my ex-wife for X, Y, and Z. But guess what? At the end of the day, I know my truth. I know who I was. I know what I did. I'm not running from the facts of what I did. What I am going to do is work on me to continue learning my truths, to continue trying to figure out ways I can be better as a man, because this world or a woman isn't going to help you in any aspect unless you help yourself first. So, 2 ways you can deal with your woman or the world without compromising your true gifts. The first way, and it's not the way I'm gonna go about it, but other people can, is to renounce sexual intimacy and worldliness, to totally dedicating yourself without distraction or compromise to the path you choose to pursue. So that's one way to deal with woman and world. You can essentially become a monk. I think that's kind of what first thing that pops into my head, where you are celibate. You aren't connected to the world. You are in a cave or at a tree, and you're connected to the world, right? But you're not connected to the world, if that makes sense. Or the second way, and this is how he says it, to fuck both to smithereens, to ravish them with your love unsheathed, to give your true gifts despite the constant tussle of woman and world, to give your authentic gifts in the friction of opposition and surrender, to thrust love from the freedom of your deep being, even as your body and mind die blissfully through a crucifixion of inevitabilities, pleasure and pain, attraction and repulsion, gain and loss. So those are the 2 options that he gave in this book of how to deal with woman and world. The first way, renounce everything and go within yourself and don't let anything affect you. You know, you're not chasing women. You're not chasing anything in this world. You don't care about the news. You're just focused on a career path that you choose, and that's all. You're constantly working on that. You're free from women and the world. The other way is to smash both to smithereens, to give them all your love all the time. Every day you wake up, you're giving them your love. And we're not just talking about sexually. We're talking about mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, every which way. Giving your love to woman and world is such a beautiful thing. Something that I can't wait to try, and I can't wait to work on, because I'm not in a relationship, but when I get into one, I really want to take this approach, because I think it's the best approach you can take. So that was, again, the book, The Way to a Superior Man, one of the best books I have ever read, because it just opens up your mind to ways to be a superior man, ways to be better. Because as a man, if you're not finding ways to be better, what are you doing? Why are we not finding ways to be better as men? And then on the side of why men aren't finishing well, doing some more research, they mishandle their father's legacy. So maybe your father left a legacy where he was an abuser and an alcoholic, and you want to change that legacy, and your father dies, and you're now given that name to live out that legacy. What do? Do you continue down that same path, or do you break free and find another way to deal with it? And there's sometimes fathers who left a good legacy for their kids. And there's still a choice that you have to make. Will you go down the path that will create chaos and drama and pain? Or will you continue your father's legacy? So a lot of guys, a lot of men don't finish well because they mishandled their father's legacy. Because it's theirs now. No man can become a man until he addresses his father's legacy. No man or no boy can become a man until he addresses his father's legacy. So you have to look at the legacy that your father has left. And you have to choose, am I going to continue going down his path, or am I going to create one for myself? Another reason why men don't finish well is because they listen to the wrong people. The older generation is here to help, to give us knowledge and help us understand better ways of doing things. But society has, for some odd reason, told men not to ask questions. So we don't ask questions because we think it's a form of weakness. So there are a lot of older men out there with so much knowledge and understanding that could give you something, but because you're afraid to ask the questions, they'll never give it to you. So now you're getting all this information from everywhere else besides the people who can really tell you, hey, I've been through this, this is what I did. Men sometimes don't finish well because they surround themselves with people who aren't going anywhere, who aren't doing anything, but they have all the answers and solutions to that problem. You know, there's that saying of, how am I going to hang around you taking business advice about how to become a millionaire when you're living paycheck to paycheck? And a lot of men stay connected to people who aren't going anywhere because they're afraid of leaving that circle and creating a new one. So they stay locked in, afraid, fearful, but also not feeling that support that is needed in order to move forward in life. So if you're in a friend group and you're not going anywhere, no one has progressed, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? What impact are those men making on your life? If all they do is drink and hang out and party, and they all have kids and wives, what impact are they making? And what impact could you make if you tried to on theirs? If you tried to make an impact and they called you out, made fun of you, told you to shut the hell up, drink a beer, then you know for a fact you don't need to be around those type of people. But we as men sometimes get stuck and we don't want to go out there and create new friends. I think that's one of the hardest things men could do. Go out there and create new friends. When you have them, you want to keep them because it's easier than to go out there and create a whole new group of friends. But it takes courage to go out there and do it. But we're not finishing well because we're not hanging around the correct people. Can you trust the counsel and example of those closest to you? And if you can't, you need to ask yourself why. Another reason why, last reason why I feel like men don't finish well is because we're not willing to express our feelings and emotions. We're not willing to talk about how we feel and what we're going through because we're afraid of the other person making fun of us. We're afraid of the other person calling us out. We're afraid of the other person not taking us seriously. But to me, that is the ultimate sign. If I come to you and I pour my heart out to you and you dismiss me, we are no longer friends. We can no longer be together. There is nothing there. Because as a man, you should feel just as safe as a woman talking about your feelings and emotions to friends without them calling you out. And if they're calling you out and saying you're weak, find new friends. It is imperative that we as men start talking, expressing ourselves, because we have feelings too. So, If anyone haven't told you today that they love you, let me be the first to say I love you. You're awesome. You're amazing. You deserve the best that this world has to offer. Do not give up. Do not quit. The world does not get easier, but you get stronger. Y'all have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And for daily, motivational, and up-to-date content, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Excellence Above Talent. And remember, keep moving forward, never give up, and you are never alone in this battle. We'll see you next time.